Public comment, but I don't believe we have anybody that signed up. Is anybody wishes to speak? Hearing and seeing none. Moving on to updates from council, if there are any. No updates from council. Moving on to the consent agenda. Any questions or comments related to those two items? Okay. And then jumping in our first discussion item, item number 6, the year-end tax collectors report. Ms. Susan Hefner, the floor is yours. Thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you. Good evening to each one of you. This time of the year, North Carolina General Statute 105-373A invites me to come and share with you what was collected and what wasn't collected in 2025. So hopefully each of you have in front of you, you can see a report, and also I've included a list of the 2025 delinquent tax accounts. The tax charge did not change, so we ended the year with a net 2025 tax charge of $5,042,309.08, and of that, we collected $5,028,600.35. So that leaves $13,708.73 uncollected as of June 30th. There were two payments today, so we've got a little bit more. So that equates to a 99.73% collection.
Fantastic.
That's remarkable.
Good job.
Thank you. Michelle, even though she's new, she's been very helpful in collecting as well. So of our 4,600, a little over 4,600 accounts that were billed, we've got 44 left. And like I said, a couple of those paid today, so there's a little bit less than that. If you wonder what comprises that 13,000, the list is down there below. The big one is about $6,300. That's due to a company called North American Trade. I went out to visit him last Thursday. We talked on the phone a couple times, and he is one that said he has had tariff issues. He said the 50% tariff has hit his business really hard. He gets his raw products from India, so he said he was not getting much shipment at all. So when I arrived Thursday, my question was, what should I tell our town council about when should a payment be coming in? And he said it would be here either today, between now and Friday of this week. So that should bring the rate up to about 99.9%.
That's remarkable. Wow.
And just, you can see the list, and there's notes on various ones. We do have payment plans with some of those that are still out. I'll give you a minute to look at that if you would like to. And then on top of page 3, just some information in regard to what we have been doing to try to collect. We obviously use tax bill reminder notices, the delinquent taxpayer ad that runs in the Hendersonville Lightning. We do phone calls, emails. Michelle's been really good at social media and finding folks that way. I use obituary listings, websites such as Secretary of State to find businesses, and North Carolina Judicial Branch eCourt online portal to find folks as well. And our desire is to locate and contact every single taxpayer that owes us money. And we have almost hit every single person that is on that list, plus the list that you see at the bottom. Because we do have some accounts that are back from 2017 to 2024 that have not been paid as well. Started out about $13,000. We've collected almost $9,000 this year of that money. So that leaves a little over $4,200 not collected. You see the bottom one was paid, and there was another one that was paid today. So we're making progress there. I'll bounce you back up at the top, just some information beyond our efforts of trying to locate people. There are enforced collection methods that we unfortunately have to use. The first one is a nice one, the payment plan. If you can't pay, just call. And that's what we try to tell folks. Just call, we'll work with you. But then we've used some other ones, as cheat fund. That's what some folks refer to it as, North Carolina Treasury Department unclaimed funds. We've collected through 15 of those. We've done some creditor claims against the state. The North Carolina debt set-off, that is your income tax. You don't get, we get instead, your tax refund, or your lottery winnings. So there were 3 of those that we've got. And then the last 2 I don't really like to use, but sometimes you have to. And that's, we've had 2 wage garnishments and 5 bank attachments that we've successfully collected from. We have done additional attachments and claims, and they were not successful, but the ones that these were. So, and I'm happy to say at this time, we do not have any delinquent accounts that we deem to be insolvent. So we still think we can find everybody. So that's what we're after. I added a note down at the very bottom. When we contact people, a question is, especially with somebody that we've been looking for because they've moved, can I go ahead and just give you a payment over the phone? And the answer is no, we don't accept those at this time. But we are working with our software vendor to allow access to another website, another payment portal that will offer partial payments, and that's a biggie because right now on our website you only pay full, and for some of these folks that's difficult. So they don't pay it, okay? Or they have to get off to come in or whatever, so that's going to be more user-friendly for our taxpayers. So we're going to offer the partial payments, and they're going to have e-checks. And plus the credit card percentage fee is going to go down a little as well. So we're working with that. We hope, initially our plan was to have it done in July. We might still, or they might still make that, but it may be toward August. But nonetheless, that's a positive for our taxpayers because they will have some other options to pay that'll be more user-friendly for them.
That's awesome.
Any questions I might can answer?
How are you going to, I mean, you've got Redbox on here. How are you going to do anything against a vending machine? I mean,
Redbox has always, since I've been here, has always been a challenge to find. Just because there's so many Redboxes out there and so many different people that work with them and pay for those bills, we've always been able to find them. They are actually now in one of the previous tax years plus this tax year, or 2025, they were bankrupt for one of those years. So we may or may not be able to collect. But that is just picking up the phone, trying any way and every way, calling other places to see how they've got money. We spend, I've joked with Michelle that after we finish these jobs, we'll be able to be detectives. Because we do spend a lot of time looking and using different resources to try to find folks. Because that's our biggest challenge. People leave, they move, and they forget they had a tax bill, and then they're not really.
park a town vehicle in front of their machine.
I beg your pardon?
Park a town vehicle in front of their machine, and
Well,
if they can't get to the machine, then they ask us to call them, come move it, you know?
Well, one of them did disappear, but there's still one
anymore.
at, this happens to be the one that's sitting at Ingalls.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, with streaming that business
Oh, I'm
activity is
sure.
going down so
I
much,
just,
so,
I've never noticed that on there before.
yeah.
Well, I say this is a great report, Susan. You and Michelle have done remarkably well collecting the tax. I mean, 99.73, and it sounds like it's about to be pretty dang close to 100. Not all the way there, but that's a remarkable collection rate, and that's a lot to be proud of. So really well done. Thank y'all.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great work.
Yeah. Do we have any other questions, comments? Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan.
All righty, moving in, discussion item number 7. Do we need to approve that report or anything, or is it just
It would be on
informational?
consent for next
And the
year.
consent, okay. Perfect.
Move it to consent. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening, Susan.
Thanks.
All righty, moving in, discussion item number 7, the town center update. Mr. Manager.
Did we have that? Oh, yeah, we did have that next. I thought it was Jabo's.
We can do Jabbo if you want to.
No. Well, I'll go, I'll be brief. We'll
Yeah.
hold Jabo up too long. So I got a copy, just kind of listing out a bunch of just different, we've had an uptick in activity and interest in our project, and so I thought this merited being on the agenda. as a separate item. Of course, we're still in discussions with Lewis Real Estate Group. It's going a lot slower than, we anticipated, or obviously we would like. So I've stayed in communication with them. How it started with, and it's been going on for months now, they approached us, so we engaged, had a couple meetings with them. Two things, we're trying to help with the traffic improvements requirement issue behind whoever we do a deal with or a new developer agreement with. There's going to have to be some level, if it's got any, which we want it to have significant impact, they're going to have to do something with traffic improvements. It'll probably trigger a traffic impact analysis. But they wanted us to kind of help the DOT, so we did that express design request. We've submitted that. That was through our regional transportation group, the MPO. The MPO only every so many months submits that to DOT. DOT processes the express design. So that will go to them, because they only do it every 3 or 4 months. Tristan from the MPO, Tristan Winkler, thought September. It'll go in.
So we're not meeting this month, so.
Yeah, and so he said September. I was looking back at the last email on that. And then it takes a couple months after that for DOT to do that. So that's in process, and that was something that kind of Lewis Real Estate wanted us to assist with. So, and then the other question they had was about, would the town consider phasing the project, which we had a kind of a little bit of a phased approach with our original agreement with them, so we said yes, but it depends. Are they phasing little tiny bits, or is it larger portions? So that's in motion, and our next meeting with them is July 15th, so that's coming up quickly next week. So I'm hoping we'll have something a little more substance here at this next meeting, and I'll follow up, obviously, back with you on that. Remember, this is the developer group that I think, they're trying to salvage another much larger project, the Costco thing there in Asheville. So that's what's going on with Lewis Real Estate Group, and Martin Lewis and Will Bowie will be back, the engineer that worked with them before, to talk to us. Another group, they're called Impeccable Development. This is one that Retail Strategies, so our contact there, Joshua Davis from Retail Strategies, brought them to the table. I've met with them online, Tyler and I did, to, give more context to what the vision here for the town center. They've taken that information back, and they're working on a proposal that they actually want to go over with us on, I think it's Wednesday. It's either Wednesday or Thursday. We talked to them on the phone, or, a virtual meeting. And then, and they have a potential grocer interest. We'll see if that fits in there. And they did mention something about a convenience store, which, we've indicated that can't be a focal point. Or the grocer, unless it's something fantastic in there, and there's still other associated retail development around it, that it's probably a no. So we did caution them on that, but they're going to pitch what they've put together at this point later this week. And then another group, and this is one someone just kind of on the fly popped into the office. We get a lot of people, obviously being on 25 and with the demo that we did of the buildings and kind of nothing appearing to be happening there. We all get questions on a year from people, and so someone locally who's with a developer group out of Florida, they live in the area, had approached. They're with the Equity Development Group. They more common name, Comet Construction, out of Boca Raton. And he wants to meet with us. His name is Barney Danzansky. So Tyler and I are going to meet with him this week as well, and so a lot of meetings this week. And then Dewey Property Advisors, that's the most recent one. They're local, they're based out of Asheville, and they're in the Grove Arcade building. They actually reached out to Mayor, to Preston, and Preston contacted me, and we're setting something up with them this week. So we see them tomorrow. And they're one of some scale here that's done a fair amount of activity in the area. So we're going to tell them more about the vision for the project and send them a bunch of information, and we'll see if they want to become a player in this. So just want to give you a little bit more context of some of the kind of volume of activity that's going on. So I don't know if you have any questions for me on this at this point. And maybe the only other thing related to this I put a copy of an article that this business magazine wanted to do about Fletcher, and the only reason I entertained it was to give get more exposure, tell a little bit more about our town center project and get that out there nationally. And they did a good job writing it. It's actually a very well-written article, so you all have copies of that. And if we get when it's finally published, which will be soon, if they have a nice hard copy version or even electronic, I'll make sure you all get that. So.
Sounds good. Well, I'm glad you all did the magazine. I'm encouraged about the increased activity, interest in the property. So
Me
hopefully
too.
something comes of it.
Yes. So,
Any other questions, comments? All righty, sounds good. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
And moving on to item number 8, the stormwater improvements and streets resurfacing for North Garden Court. Mr. Jabbo.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, how y'all doing?
Well,
I'm sure Mark has sent stuff out to you about what's going on in this area. This all stemmed from a visit.
And there's that packets, the memos in the packet, so they got that, yeah.
This all stemmed from the hard rain that we had back in Memorial Day. And on May 26th, I had a phone call from a resident who said he had water come in his house. And so I went out and looked at it, and the rain had done dried up by the end and everything. You could tell that there's an issue there. And one of the issues that I found was the water is draining off of Wildwood Circle in 3 areas on this North Garden Court Road. The first area it's coming from, it's a 18-inch culvert that comes underneath the road. It runs down to the ditch on North Garden, and it hits a 12-inch culvert. And then it goes in the 12-inch culvert, it's got to make a hard 90, and it goes to a 15-inch culvert. Well, it can't handle it. So that's what got my attention on that is, so we started walking and looking at that, and so I told him I would come back the next time it rained to get a better look at it. Well, when I did go back and look at it, we had another pretty good shower, so I went out there while it was raining. I found 2 other places on up the road where the water's coming from Wildwood Circle. One is a 24-inch culvert that comes straight down onto North Garden Court, and instead of going underneath the road, it runs across the road. And it's washing out, in this area down here, there are 3 separate roads that turn off of. And here, one of these culverts is turning out on one of those roads. And it's creating problems, creating some washing on them. It's scarring the pavement on our road. At the very end, that's where the bridge was, or they call it the bridge, but it was a large culvert that washed out there, the hurricane. And they were without access for probably a year and a half, it seemed like. And there's a culvert, there's a drainage ditch comes off of Wildwood Garden, and it comes down onto this and runs across our road too. And that's the one that we need to talk about, when it comes off of Wildwood Garden, it comes down and there's a concrete driveway that goes up to a couple of unit houses up there. And it's running across that road, running down the paved road, hitting our road, running across it, washing out everything around to there. And that would fall underneath our stormwater grant. And everything else that I've talked about, discussions, and in that one area there on one of the maps, it shows we're going to put a concrete swell ditch in there to keep the water from running across the road. But on the very last one, at the very end of the road, that's where we need to look at doing the stormwater assistance program that we provide. And what we'd probably do, or what we'd have to do is, we'd have to design to see what size of culverts we need to install in these places. And then, when they bid it, it'd be actually two bid items. One would be covered underneath Powell bill, the other would come off the stormwater grant system line item. Okay, and I've talked to the HOA numerous times out at Wildwood Gardens. And I was trying to tell them what we're going to have to do and what we need to do, and who do I need to talk to about this. And all they own there is their house and 5 feet around their house. Everything else goes to the HOA. So that's good. And they were very amenable to us doing this type of work there. And I told them that normally what we do is in a situation like this is that we'll pay for 90% of it, and the property owner or the HOA in this situation, they'll pay for the other 10%. And she asked me if I needed the check then and there for what it was. I said, well, we ain't got that far yet. But, you know, before I spent hours dealing with this out here. But I told her, I said, before we get to that part, I want to get, you know, everything lined up so we can see what's going to. All right, just so happened that the next week, Ben, Kathy from McGill's and I were looking at another situation for stormwater. So I said, you got a minute, let's go down here and look at this. So he went down there and looked at that, and we discussed, you know, the do's and don'ts of what we need to do. But one thing that he did recommend was that we needed to do something about this, because it's washing across our road. It's washing people out below the road, and it don't need to be doing that. We need to have this fixed. But now you got to realize too is that this is not something that we've created. It's been like that for years, but with the rains and everything that goes along with it, it's gotten worse.
Because they've had problems on the spurs since Helene, correct? Did they get that repaired?
They got the last one repaired.
Okay.
They got the first two. The second one is patched, but it's not fixed.
Gotcha.
And we don't take our trucks across that. We'll take our brush truck back there to get some. Our truck is way too heavy to go across that.
Because all those were undersized too, is what
Yeah,
caused the
that's-
problem, is my
That's why the
understanding.
town, we never took those overs because they, you know, it's substandard.
There's issues throughout that neighborhood. I don't want to
Yeah.
misspeak on which roads and that, but with the need for bigger drainage culverts. But some of the dilemma is we only have certain areas that are town maintained.
Right.
We've applied for grants to help the association years ago, one that we got turned down for, but this is trying to just address that issue through North Garden
Yeah.
Port. And then it gets complicated because you have a little bit of that road that's private, and then they repaired it. That was one of the roads that
Right.
washed out, that little section.
Because I went down and met with them, a couple of the residents about that way back after Helene.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent several days there with them, trying to help them out to come up with different options.
Yeah,
And they did have options, but
pricey.
yeah, but we could have got them to where they could have gotten it in and out
Yeah.
easier. But instead, they just drove through the neighbor's yard. And if the HOA owns it, if you don't drive within 5 feet of the house, that's okay too.
Yep.
So that worked out, but this is a project that needs to be done. The only drawback is that last year's budget, we had $100,000 set up for it. And we cut it down to $40,000 this year. And I've got 4 waiting for them to finalize their stuff and turn it in. But this project here could take up to close to that much of the $40,000. I don't think it'd be that high, but it will be close.
And hopefully it won't, because we actually have a cap on that of 30,000,
Yeah.
in the upper category, but, so we might have to come back to you depending on how these other projects and the one that he's mentioning, you know, these grants that are in various stages in the hopper right now, so to speak, to possibly try and appropriate some more money or doing a budget amendment,
that's fine.
which we could handle if we need to do that.
And that would include, that would be our spring paving project, because what we'd most likely do, if y'all approve this, Ben will work on, get cost estimates to see where we stand at, and what each item's gonna cost. But if that's the case, we'll let it out in the fall. That would give a contractor winter work, where they can install the culverts and patch it back, then the next spring, all they have to come in and do is pave it. And that will be an easy pave job, because it's just it's just 18-foot wide road. And, you know, you take like where you live in South Chase, they're 32 feet.
32
You
feet,
could
yeah.
get.
Full car, yeah.
Yeah, twice the bang
Yep.
for that. And there's no curbing, so there won't be no milling. It'd just be it'd be a simple,
Lay it down.
good job. to do that out there. But here's the thing, is that in order for us to do this, we need to do all of it. And that includes all the at the end of it for the off right of way for the stormwater assistance program. Because if we don't, it's not gonna work.
And this eats up our Powell bill allocation, likely the whole thing for this year. So it jumps in front of whatever our next highest priority road would be. So it pushes that back a little bit.
We'll just go back 1 year.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's pretty needed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I just found good. When I got out there and seen that, I could not believe that this is what's been going on.
It's gonna create a bigger problem.
It has created problems. It's
Yeah.
gonna get worse.
Yeah.
Watch it for it.
yeah, water going into people's homes isn't
Isn't
not
it?
okay.
No.
So, I guess what do we need to do? Do we need to just approve I guess using this in Powell bill? Powell bill funding?
Yeah, I mean, if you could, and we could, I don't know, I
It sounds
guess
like a
we
consent
we
agenda.
can move it to consent
Yeah.
if you want, to just as an approval to move forward
Yeah,
with this.
everybody okay with that? Yeah,
I'm good
I think
with
we're
that.
That's
okay
why we
with
designed it, is to
Yeah.
do just this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's,
Yeah, and like Javo said, we'll do if we get, you know,
And then the grant piece of it, yeah.
decent estimate and then bid it, try and do all the stormwater improvements, the culverts, and then that side, I don't know what you're calling it on.
The concrete swale
Yeah, the
ditch.
concrete kind of swale ditch. Get all that done first in the fall and then come back in the spring to resurface the road. And then it'll be all done, North Garden, for hopefully a long time. Yeah.
And if there's a small chance that we go under of what we usually allocate for paving, we can find another little short street around there that we can work.
Yeah.
There we go. All righty, everybody comfortable with consent agenda?
yeah.
All righty, sounds good. Thank you, Jabbo.
Thanks for
Appreciate
working on
y'all.
that.
Yeah.
Just read for the language a little bit, to approve the recommendation to do this.
All right, moving in, item number 9, the additional fund balance designation for the library project.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, Council. So at the fiscal year closeout meeting back on June 29th, we brought up the issue of, we have a small fund balance designation, so a kind of restricted fund balance of 50,000 for a hopeful library project that was set up several years back when we were a little bit more active discussions, engagement, trying to get a joint project going with the county to do this. And so that's been sitting there, and the project was, dormant. And so, Heather saw that, brought that up. And, doing our closeout and still seeing how much we have in just that unassigned fund balance, let alone these other fund balance designations and then what we have for restricted fund balance, et cetera. I did that report to you per our fund balance policy because we were above that 65% range for unassigned, and it was 943,000. So, rounding that up to 950 just to make it a little more round number, and we're still at the high end of our unassigned fund balance total there, probably still gonna hover at 65, maybe over it. Because we're likely, this fiscal year we just ended, we're likely to add probably some additional unassigned fund balance. So we're in very good shape financially to do this. So the recommendation is to take 950,000 from our unassigned fund balance and move that to this library fund balance designation, and that would bring the total to 1 million.
Yeah.
And, it's a good gesture since we've re-engaged in discussions now with the county to do a joint project for a
Yeah.
library facility for y'all to consider. We don't have to go that amount, you can do nothing, but we thought that might be a good idea for y'all to consider, so that's what we're recommending.
I think it's appropriate. I think based on conversations we had at the last meeting, I would imagine everybody's comfortable with that. And so this might be another consent agenda item as well for next week.
Okay.
If everybody's okay with that. All right, sounds good. Easy enough. But thank y'all for you and Heather bringing that to us.
Yeah, sure.
All righty, and moving into your town manager's report.
Okay. Just a few things for you. I know I'd emailed you a little while back. We got notice or were notified by some staff from Land to Sky, the same people, Mary from Land to Sky had worked on, her and another staff member, on an application for a sewer project on Westville, North Hudson, and Dogwood Terrace. And they saw that, that there was an appropriation, a bill submitted from Congressman Edwards, and there has been, it wasn't quite as much as they thought. It's an appropriations bill that has a lot of other projects in the area. But I was able to confirm with Connor Brown from Congressman Edwards' office that it is in a bill. It's 1.15 million, so 1,150,000. The total estimated project costs, based on the other application that was turned down that Land and Sky worked on, was like 1.4 million. But I think it's still, that's very close.
Yeah.
And that included a lot of other some admin money to Land to Sky and other things. So it's in the bill, it's in an appropriations bill. When I talked to the staff, maybe in the August timeframe, they look at voting on this. And then if it advances, possibly in the spring, then 2027, for it going to a agency, on the executive side, like Department of Interior, and then down to like State Department of Environmental Quality, or DEQ, we call it, in the same type of program that Land to Sky had applied for this money, which is a state revolving fund. So it's very good news. Once it reaches that kind of submission, our chances are fairly good for making it to an ultimate award. So really good news. I mean, it's not a done deal. It's got to get through the process in Congress and appropriations and so forth, but really happy to share that. So this could be a real good opportunity to get that sewer project done.
Yeah, that's really good.
And I don't think there'll be many gaps, and but you might have to appropriate a little bit of local funds to kind of close the gap. We wound up having one after it's a bid and all that. So that was good news. I don't know if there's any questions on that.
I think that's a pretty good scenario regardless.
Yes, definitely. I was just going to mention, I know I emailed you all about, and these complaints went from some constituents directly to Jim, but people complaining about noise that live near the Old Castle Mineral quarry or former quarry.
Yeah.
Harrison Construction is managing the closeout of the mine there, the quarry, and dirt's been being hauled in here for a period of time. We've had some other, just lots of interest in all the dump truck activity. But it has been noisy at times, and it was on the weekend, and they weren't working on Sunday, but they were on Saturday. And so I reached out to my contact with Harrison Construction, Daryl Mathis, and he said they're gonna try and curtail some of the activity on Saturday as well. They're not violating our noise ordinance. We went back and looked through it, and the activity or the time of operation are not in violation, so there's really nothing we can do to, come down on there or force something or some penalty or cease and desist. But the good news is it is still a temporary project. They have quite a bit more dirt to haul in there. I think it was like 40,000 yards.
40,000 yards.
Yeah, it's a pretty sizable amount. But and when we talked to them months ago, they anticipated July to be done. So based on this conversation, probably the end of July, if it keeps on track at a good pace. So, but I just want to share that. It's generated a lot of
I appreciate you
buzz
reaching
and,
out.
yeah, sure.
And those folks were just like, Saturday morning's the only morning they get off. And the dump truck gates start slamming, open and closed at 7:30,
That's a common
8
noise
o'clock.
problem, yeah, when dump trucks come.
And I guess they've got a compactor in there compacting the dirt as they lay it down, and it's
Yeah.
vibrating their house.
Yeah. So that's not fun. I know you
But they
don't
were
want-
appreciative of the staff, and I appreciate that.
Good. Yeah, you're welcome. So hopefully that thing will be done before long and we won't have the noise coming from that site. But I just thought I'd give you a little more details and just talk about that. The last thing I was going to mention is, of course, we've had this residential project, the landing at Meadowview here next to Town Hall, just on the north side, and large project. One of the things they're trying to get finalized is their driveway access to the site. Normally, a lot of these projects all front on DOT maintained roads, which means they get a DOT driveway permit, and we really aren't involved on the staff side. Their primary entrance into the site, though, is going to be on a town-maintained road, which is our old King Creek Road here. So, yeah, as you go down Old King Creek here, heading towards King Creek, on the right-hand side down there will be their primary entrance. There will be one from Mills Gap, but we've had a lot of going back and forth with the owner-developer for the project. DOT has been involved, even though it's not a DOT road. What's complicated this is DOT is going to reconstruct the bridge over the railroad tracks there at King Creek, where Old King Creek kind of dead ends up there. And this all impacts.
That's an old bridge.
Yeah, it is. And it's been in the plans for a long time to fund the reconstruction of it. And that intersection gets changed a little bit too. So we've been trying to get, and there was a little bit of a gap or drop off with our previous planning and zoning director leaving, and then Tyler coming in and making sure our understanding of this was clear. And we think we're close on this, but we're requiring, as you turn from King Creek Road onto Old King Creek, so turn from Old King Creek onto, and then coming down this way towards Town Hall, right now we're requiring a 50-foot dedicated left turn lane. And developer didn't want any turn lane there at all, but we feel at a minimum that, originally it was gonna be like 100-foot. Just in case you get any stacking there. I mean, most instances,
It is.
people turning down
It's a lot of
Cane
volume
Creek
on this
onto
road.
Old Cane Creek heading into the site, there's usually not a lot of oncoming traffic to cause stacking. You turn in left and you're in. Coming out right, it's probably not going to be much of an issue. But that was something from a safety standpoint. Plus, we still don't know, there's still some up in the air about how the intersection's going to be reconfigured up there when the bridge is
With the
redone.
bridge.
So that's our latest that we're requiring of them. So if you hear more about this, we're going back and forth on it.
Okay.
They may still disagree on it, but, it's our road.
Yeah.
It's kind of like DOT, it's their road, and they can ultimately decide what happens with driveway permit access and making other traffic mitigation improvements, et cetera. But that's the only thing we're requiring of them right now, so we feel that's a reasonable and.
I think so. Yeah, I'm glad y'all are doing, there's a lot of
Yeah.
volume out there.
Yeah, there's been a
Warners
fair
and
amount of
EMS.
conflict back and forth with it, so we're just, that's the latest, so, and that's all I had.
All right, any questions, comments from Mark? All right, any other business from council? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Okay, motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We are adjourned. Have you been to